This is the Procedural Numeracy Test for Year 7, 2013. Question 1 is the number machine. The number machine has an input, an output, and a function. And in the middle of the machine it says times 6. So whatever goes in is going to be multiplied by 6. So part 1, 8 goes in. What is the number that comes out? So it will be 8 times 6. So our answer is 48. Now for the second part, it says 120 comes out. So what number went in? Well, if we go backwards through a number machine, we always have to do the inverse or opposite operation. So what we would need to do here is not times 6, but we would need to do 120 divided by 6. And the answer then would be 20. Question 2. What is the size of angle A? Now, when we're looking at reading off a protractor, we must always ensure we start from a scale that counts upwards from 0. Now in this particular case, this is the outer scale. So, if we work our way around, we can see that this angle is in fact 135 degrees. Question 3. Circle all the factors of 12. Well, these are the numbers that go into 12. So 1 goes into 12 12 times, 2 goes into 12 6 times, and 3 goes into 12 4 times, and there we've done it. We've circled all the factors of 12. Now the second part of the question says write down 2 multiples of 12. Now a multiple is a number that is in the 12 times table. So 2 multiples of 12 are things like 12 and 24. But obviously I could have picked any other numbers from the 12 times table. Question 4. Write double 500,000 in figures. So, if you double 500,000, what you end up with is 1,000,000, which is better known as 1 million. The second part of this is write half of 300,000 in figures. Well, half of 300,000 is 150,000. Question 5. Caris has £120 and she spends £49.99. How much does she have left? Well, if I start with £49.99 and I add on the extra penny, that takes me up to £50. And to go from 50 to 120 is an extra £70, so that means she has £70 1 pence remaining. Question 6. This is all about converting between degrees C and degrees F. So the first question is 10 degrees C equals how many degrees F? Well, the first thing I have to do is on the temperature scale I have to find where 10 degrees C is, and that is on the left, and it's here. So if I take a look at the right to see where that is, I can see that it's between 40 and 60, therefore 10 degrees C is 50 degrees F. Now the second part of the question, a little bit more tricky. It says something degrees C equals 86 degrees F. Now the 86 degrees F would appear on the right hand side scale, and the scale on the right is going up in 2, so 86 would be 3 little squares after 80, which would be just there. And that would equate to 30 degrees C if we look at the left side of the scale. Question 7. 0.15 plus blank equals 1. Now 0.15 is 15 hundredths, so what I need is to find 2 numbers that add up to 100 hundredths if they're going to make a whole. So the answer is 0.85, because then the 85 and the 15 make the 100 hundredths. Similarly below, 0.675 plus blank equals 1. Now I've got 675 thousandths, so I need my 2 numbers to add up to 1,000 thousandths. Therefore the missing number is 0.325. Question 8. Estimate the total amount. The first thing I would do with these amounts of money is round them to the nearest pounds. So £1.98 would round to £2. £2 5 would round to £2. £7.48 would round to £7. £9.90 would round to £10. And £4.53 would round to £5. Now when I add those numbers up, I get 2, 4, 11, 21, £26. Question 9. Circle all the numbers that are divisible by 4 and 5. So, if I take a look at the top row, well, 8 is divisible by 4, but not by 5. 10 is divisible by 5, but unfortunately not by 4. 20 is divisible by both, so I can circle that number. On the bottom row, 50 is divisible by 5, but not divisible by 4. When I get to that middle number, it's divisible by both. And when I get to the last number, that too is also divisible by both. Question 10. This is a BIDMAS question, and remember the letters from BIDMAS stands for brackets, indices, and then finally division, multiplication, addition and subtraction. This tells us the order of operations that we need to carry out. So if I take a look at this calculation, we have multiplication and we have addition in there. So I have to do the multiplications first. So that would become 4 3s are 12, 3 7s are 21, and finally I add the two numbers, which gives me a grand total of 33. Question 11. Round 0.8127 to 3 decimal places. So if I cut this number off after the third decimal place, it would be 0.812. Now to decide whether it stays as 0.812 or whether it goes up to become 0.813, I look at the digit that is after the cutoff, and that digit is the digit 7. Now if a digit is 5 or bigger, then it will in fact round the number in front of the cutoff up, which this does. So my answer to 3 decimal places is 0.813. Question 12. The two pie charts show homework time at the weekend in minutes for two groups of students, Group A and Group B. So the first question underneath. Which group has a modal class of 31 to 45 minutes? Well, mode means the most common. So if we look at both pie charts for the 31 to 45 minute sector, we can see that it is in fact Group A that has that as the most popular section in the pie chart. Now, which group spends more time on homework in general? Now, if we take a look at Group B's pie chart, each one of the high time sectors is in fact bigger. For example, if you look at the 46 to 60 sector, it's almost half the pie chart, whereas it's only a quarter of the pie chart in the Group A sector. The 61 to 90 minute sector is in fact bigger for Group B's, and so on. Now, the last part of this question says, complete this sentence for Group A. A quarter of the pupils did homework for. Now, if you look at that pie chart, you can see that the 46 to 60 minute sector is in fact a quarter of that pie chart. Question 13. How many grams does the arrow show? Well, what we can see is that each bold marker has thousands on it. But in between 4,000 and 5,000, there are in fact 5 spaces. So if we divide that 1,000 by 5, that means that each gap must be 200. So our arrow is on the third dash, so that must be 200, 400, 600 after the 4,000 marker, giving us 4,600 grams as our answer. Now, what is this in kilograms? So to turn grams into kilograms, we need to divide by 1,000, giving us 4.6. Question 14. Round this time to the nearest tenth of a second. Well, the 10th column is the column immediately after the decimal point. So that means our number must be cut off after the 9.4. So will it stay as 9.4 or will it go to 9.5? In order to decide, we need to look at the digit that is in the hundredths column. In this case, that digit is worth 8, which is over halfway, which is over 5. So the 9.4 will in fact go up to become 9.5. Question 15. 17 divided by 0.5. Now, the trick when dividing by a decimal is to change both numbers so that the number you are dividing by is not in fact a decimal, but a whole number. So the trick in this first one is to turn that number into a 5, not 0.5. Now, in order to do that, we multiply by 10, so we must then multiply the first number by 10 also. That leaves us with 170 divided by 5, and we can do that in the traditional way. How many 5s go into 1? Well, it doesn't go. Carry the 1. How many 5s go into 17? 3 5s are 15. Carry 2. How many 5s go into 20? 4. That gives us an answer for the first one of 34. Now the second question. If we times both these numbers by 10, we get 30 divided by 2, giving us an answer of 15. These two clocks show the time in London and Mumbai. The time in London is 4.5 hours behind the time in Mumbai. Or vice versa, the time in Mumbai is 4.5 hours ahead of the time in London. So the first question. At 6:45 AM in London, it is blank in Mumbai. So we know Mumbai is 4.5 hours ahead. So if we add 4 hours onto the 6:45, that will take us up to 10:45. And if we add on the extra half an hour, that will take us to 11:15 AM. Second part of the question, at something in London it is 2 PM in Mumbai. So we know London is 4.5 hours behind. So if we count backwards 4 hours from 2 PM, first of all, that will take us to, well, 2 hours backwards is going to be midday. An extra 2 hours backwards would be 10 PM. But then we need to take off that half an hour as well. So it will be 9:30 AM. Question 17. We have to make equivalent decimal and percentages for 3/5. Now, one of the easiest ways to do this is to make equivalent fractions initially for 3/5. Now, if I double both top and bottom of this fraction, I will get 6/10. And if I times top and bottom by 10, I will get 60 hundredths. Now, 60 out of 100 is 60%. And if we actually divide the 60 by 100, what ends up happening is each of the digits moves one place to the right, making it smaller, and we get as our answer for the decimal 0.60 or 0.6. Question 18. What is the mean score? Well, the first thing we would have to do for the mean is we would have to add up all of our numbers. Once you do this, you will get a score of 100. Then what you have to do with 100 is divide it by the number of values you had in the question, and we had 5. So 100 divided by 5 gives us an answer of 20. Question 19. Work out the area of the triangle. Now, area of a triangle is found by multiplying base times height and dividing the answer by 2. So if we take our base, which is 7, our perpendicular height, which is 6, and we divide it by 2, we'll get the answer. Well, 6 sevens is 42, and then we divide that by 2, giving us an answer of 21 centimeters squared. Question 20. Work out 352 divided by 16. Well, the first thing I will do is write 4 or 5 answers of the 16 times table down, because that's going to help me. Now I'm going to do a division. So how many 16s go into 352? How many 16s go into 3? Well, 16 doesn't go into 3, so I carry the 3. How many 16s go into 35? Well, it's the second answer, so it's 2. But 2 16s were 32, so that means I carry 3. Now, how many 16s go into 32? It's 2, so the answer is 22. Question 21. Complete this table. We're told 1 centimetre to 1 metre is in the ratio of 1 to 100. That's because 1 metre is really 100 centimetres. Now, the question we've been given is 8 centimetres to 240 centimetres. We have to write it in a scale. So if I write it first of all as a ratio, so 8 to 240. Now, the form we have to show a scale in is 1 to something. So So if I divide both parts of this ratio by 8, what we will get is 8 goes into 8 once, and 8 goes into 240 30 times, so that would be 1 to 30. Question 22. Write in order, smallest to largest. Now, in order to compare fractions, we must make these fractions have the same denominator or bottom number. Now, the denominators at the moment are 3, 5 and 10. So in order to find a common denominator, I have to find a number that is in the 3, 5 and 10 times table. And that number is 30. So if I turn each of these fractions into a fraction with 30 as the denominator, then I can compare them. So in order to turn the first fraction into 30ths, you have to multiply top and bottom by 10, so that would be 10 30ths. In order to make the middle fraction 30ths, you would have to multiply top and bottom by 6, so 6 ones on top is 6 30ths. And in order to make the third fraction into 30ths, you would have to multiply top and bottom by 3, so it becomes 9 30ths. Now I can see that the smallest fraction is 6 30ths, which was really a 1/5. The next smallest was 9 30ths, which was the 3 tenths, and the final one, the largest one, was 10 30ths, which was 1/3. Question 23. There are 150 books on a shelf. 2% of the books are about cars. How many of the books are about cars? Well, 10% of 150 books would be 15 books, and we get that by dividing by 10. From there I could work out 1%. All I would have to do is divide my 10% answer by 10. Now that would give me 1.5 books, and then 2% would be double that answer, so 2 lots of 1.5 is in fact 3 books.